Okay, so I know some videos back I said that was going to be my last video for a while, but uh, my trip ended up getting canceled. But now I'm actually about to go. So this may possibly be my last video for a little while. Honestly, I upload too much anyways, but uh, yeah, I guess like whenever I'm settled down and I don't know. I just start making all the videos that I've been wanting to make for years when I have a chance to, and then I make way too many. I'm probably going to be like a little spacey because of blood sugar stuff. By tomorrow, I'm supposed to have out this video, the last part for now, for funny situations that have happened since running away / being homeless. A video about the security companies and the coming one world monetary system, and what I think about age gaps, and how I would advise you to really leave people alone. Because like I always say, the one advice that my dad, or my parents in general, gave me that I really could use, which was really just like me getting cursed out, to be honest, was when my dad told me just leave people the F alone. That was when I was about, I don't know, maybe 10, but I eventually really wanted to start trying to do that, especially at 14, once I actually like started doing research on trauma and stuff, and I like realized the limerence obsessions, the FPs, the attachment issues, and I was like, dang, I really do need to leave people alone. And of course that included people that wanted me to leave people alone. But leaving all the people alone that I needed to really did help. And honestly, I would say if you're struggling with BPD type issues, sometimes the best thing to do is leave people alone for a little while. As a whole, to a certain extent, because like I'm the type that'll like be hiding in a cave somewhere, and I'm not trying to advise anybody else to do that. But anywho, funny things that have happened since running away part 4. This isn't necessarily funny, but it's relatable. So, this was very recent. This was like, honestly, I don't know, 2 days ago or something. A week ago, I don't know. But anywho, I was on the bus, well, the train, and there was this dude outside, this homeless dude, and he was talking to either demons or multiple personalities or both. And, well, they were talking out of him, which that also commonly happens. And they were like, he's insane. And then him or another personality spoke out of him and was like, no, I'm not. And that's really relatable when you go through a lot of stuff. It's really a sad situation, but I put it in here because it can be relatable. So, yeah. That's the effects of long, drawn-out trauma. And since I mentioned that one, I might as well mention this other one that's kind of similar. So I was walking down the sidewalk, and there was this dude in front of me. And he was also homeless, and while we were walking, he turned around and looked at me. And then he was like, I'm mental, but I don't want any help. And I was like, same, or something like that. Although I can say that there is no help. Definitely not in the medical system, which isn't there to treat anybody anyways. But another relatable thing. And then I guess since I said those two, I might as well go to the faggot horror story next, which I forgot about this. And I know like that just sounds interesting, just the word. And when I heard it, I was like, dang, that sounds interesting. I've never heard it before, but it sounds like something to do with marine spirits or some type of spirit spouse, incubus, succubus, I don't know. But it's something like that. So, when I camped out in Slab City for 2 weeks, I had this one neighbor. He lived in his van or truck or something like that. And he had a dog. And every morning, he would wake up at like 6, 7, 8 a.m. and he would be arguing with whatever demons, and then he'd be like, "F you, faggot whore, leave me alone, faggot whore. Don't tell me all your sick jokes or whatever, faggot whore." So yeah, another sad situation, but it made me think of another video idea, which was gonna be homeless and sex demons. That was gonna be the title, but I don't think people already feel like my content over the years has been disturbing, and I just feel like let me not go into that. Anywho, so yeah, every morning he'd wake up arguing with faggot whore, whoever that is. I don't know what else to say about that. But yeah, he'd be in there throwing stuff. He was nice though, and he sold art. And this other neighbor, this weird neighbor, he would talk about how he felt like the dude was risky and dangerous. And I mean, that's half everybody out there, so it's kind of whatever. This is recent. A little less recent than the second story. So there was this program thing that gives out food on Sundays, and I was standing in the line, and there was a schizo narc dude, and he was like talking junk about us and then complimenting right after that. So the whole SpongeBob or Brace of SpongeBob example that I've given in the past couple recent videos, and he was talking about he was buffer than everybody else or something like that. And he was like, "I still got it." And then he started whipping out his muscles and flexing them and stuff and kissing his arm. And that was honestly pretty funny. So there's that. Another story from the whole "Are you 18 yet?" dude. The dude that kept putting me at risk every time he saw me at the shelter or anywhere else by walking up to me and asking me if I was 18 yet. Or the Chomo dude, I should say. So, I was at the park, and I was on the swing, and I was with this lady, and he saw us. And I'm very hypervigilant, so I saw him way before he even saw us. And as soon as he saw us, his face lit up, and I was like, oh no. And then he was trying to get with the lady because he couldn't get with me. And so, yeah, there's that. He was too old for her too. And then she started having flashbacks, so she was even more ready to go. And she was already crying when we got there because of other things that had happened. So, yeah. One of the many racial situations that I mentioned happening in Cali with, of course, those specific group of Europeans that like to run around Africa pretending to be the people, and other places. These were the ones with Scottish in them. They actually played the bagpipes and were wearing kilts or whatever they call those skirt things. So, this lady and her husband or whatever, their dogs saw me and they were barking. And mind you, they had over 4 dogs on a leash that they were walking around. And they saw me, and the raciality lit up inside of them. And so the lady was like, I'm gonna let my dogs off the leash to say hey to you. They're only barking because they've never seen a ninja before, so they're scared. And then she got mad at me and cursed me out and kept telling me to stop running because I was gonna make her dogs get lost. And she didn't want me running from her dogs, and she let off the leash to chase me because she didn't want them to get hurt. So there was that. And then I wrote in this little bad joke, I'm not a ninja, I'm an Adobe Acrobat. And that's why I've been single my whole life and will continue to be. I forgot all about this too. I'm trying to figure out exactly how to summarize this lady, but it was very obvious from the first time that she opened her mouth that she had stuff going on. And I don't mean that in a rude way, of course, but I'm just saying. So I'm really good at pointing out other people with borderline tendencies. And I could tell that she was very, very borderline. And of course, because she's a foster kid. In fact, I used to have this joke I would tell in the evidence channels, and I'd be like, if you already have attachment issues or already borderline, the last thing you need is to beg to go into foster care. So anyways, this lady actually worked at the shelter, or more so this clinic thing that was on the side of the shelter. And the fact that it's like, if she can get hired but people won't hire me, I know something. Like that was my answer to years of questions. But anywho, eventually she quit, quote unquote. I really feel like she got fired, but she said she quit because she thought that she was going to finally get to help homeless people, but she found out that she was just going to be helping exploit them and make money off of them. And it's like, I mean, duh. You grew up in the foster care system. You already know how the Cash for Kids system works. Or, well, the people cash cow systems more so. But, anywho, the shelter staff ended up banning her, wouldn't let her on campus because they didn't like her. And the Abbott and Allied staff wanted to beat her up and jump her, like they want to do everybody, to be honest. But it was because she kind of snitched on herself. Well, not kind of. She pretty much let it be known that she was going to try to get them in trouble, quote unquote. As if, like, if you're going to get them in trouble, all these systems are the same. So, I mean, it's like, it just wouldn't get anywhere. But anywho, fast forward. One day, I saw her while I was selling my art. And she ran up on me screaming and crying and rolling around on the ground. And I was like, I don't know. Because the thing is, I get like numb easily due to different things that have happened. So, I mean, it's like I care. But when people like, when there's like emotional stuff going on, I just like get numb because I don't really know what to do to help. And especially in situations like that, I really don't like when people run up on me screaming and crying. And I didn't even know her at the time, to be truthfully honest. She also told me about, no. She was crying about how she understands this one dude there that people say is nonverbal. And, how she knows how it is for him because she was him once. And how he's not nonverbal. He just won't talk to people that he knows are going to bully him and things with people not feeling comfortable with him. And he's definitely the type that could either get the schizophrenia or autism label. If he doesn't already have one of them. But, anywho, he has the usual messed up situation. But another thing she said is that, what was it? Oh, yeah. She said something about my height. And this is something I really didn't understand with people around there. It's like, I don't know why the quote-unquote white people there kept trying to make me feel like I can't be older than 11 because I'm short. I mean, I do understand that, like, I have serious metabolic issues or iatrogenic metabolic and autoimmune issues, so I'm really small, but height doesn't have much to do with anything. And I feel like it was just weird because people of my ethnic group, specifically the ones in America, usually aren't that tall. So I don't really get what point they're always trying to make with that. As far as the weight comments that I've gotten throughout the years, especially while there, I don't really know what to say about that either. Because it's like I don't really, I guess maybe I'm like the size of like some, I don't know, 11-year-olds or whatever. But I feel like I more so just look sick than I really look 11. In fact, I even remember this one girl. She told me that I look my age, I just am really small. But I don't know. I just feel like at some point there's not really such thing as looking at age, and you can't really look at age. But anywho, she tried to tell me that I was at risk. Not because of the obvious reasons, but because of my height. And I was just like, every single day. But going past that, I seen her another time while busking my art. and she offered to give me a ride to the store. And now look, obviously she was risky, but she was half safe. And half safe people aren't safe, but I did want the ride. In fact, no. I was busking my heart far away from where my spot was. So I also wanted to ride back to my spot. And of course, she went into like a paranoid frenzy to a certain extent, where she kept talking about she had pepper spray and how she had a taser, and she wasn't sure how safe I was, and she wanted to know that I wasn't gonna hurt her, and she had her taser in her hand. And I don't get scared easily, and I know people are gonna be like, "Oh my gosh," but trust me, I really don't put myself in situations where I actually know things are gonna happen. And one thing I can say though is that I did realize that, like, due to stuff with health issues, I am sometimes more likely to like fall into situations with women like this over rides, and I really got to try to avoid it. But sometimes it was hard because it was just hard for me to get places at times. But anywho, all that happened, and we were in Safeway. And then this is where the funny part actually starts. And I was looking for olive oil. And we had walked in there, and we walked down the aisle, and I was like, wait a minute, we shouldn't be here. And then she was like, wait a minute, what do you mean we shouldn't be here? What's going on? What's happening? What do you mean? What's going on in the Safeway? And then she started laughing, and she was like, oh, you mean we shouldn't be here because we're looking for olive oil and we're on the freezer aisle. That was the funny part, at least to me. But yeah, it's like, I don't know. She had like, it wasn't even covert either. She had like one of the most severe BPDs I've ever seen, to be honest. And look, I don't like mental labels, but I can tell other people like the traits and stuff. And it's like that, and that was just like the most severe I've ever seen it. Like, I've had friends who had abusive parents, dad left, stepdad disowned them, mom abused them and eventually overdosed, trafficked, and they didn't even have BPD anywhere near like that. So that was very interesting to me. And it's like, dang, people will hire her, but they won't hire me. And I feel like that's going to be real regardless. I'm really not trying to be, but I just feel like it just, like, proved the point that me and other people were feeling like with, like, just a lot of racial stuff that went on there. Especially with the whole go back to Mexico, you nigger comments every single day. But, yeah, so, what else was it? It was something else. Oh, yeah. So she was dating this dude that worked at the shelter at one point for one day. And she told me about how he broke up with her because he said he was scared of her. And I'm just thinking, you're scared of her? But anyways, well, I guess I could say I don't get scared easily. So, like, things like that, If the situation's dangerous enough, I would, of course, avoid it and avoid the person. But that is, like, minor. But anyways, he said bye to her because the date was over and he was about to go home. And due to her abandonment issues, she broke down crying and told him that she wasn't going to let him leave and a whole bunch of other stuff. And I was like, well, that is not good. And it's like, that's like really far down the BPD spectrum. Honestly, due to her voice, ever since the first time she opened her mouth and talked to me, I thought she was on meth or something. In fact, I thought she was another homeless person. I didn't even know she worked there. But yeah, this is definitely going to be in my CPS government abuse cult playlist. This is just another reason to not try to go into CPS. Which, I mean, you can't really force yourself in there anyways. I mentioned this situation back in 2023. So, I was walking down the street by the shelter back in Cali. And there was this one lady who was in her tent, and she was talking to herself, or the multiple personalities or whatever. Which, like I always say, if you don't already talk to yourself before you leave your abuse situation or get kicked out or whatever, you are going to start once you become homeless. And I don't really mean like really far down the trauma spectrum of like full conversations, but I just mean like thinking out loud. Or when you're mad about something, due to the fact that you most likely don't have anybody else, which is why you've been in the situations you've been in your whole life and had to run away or get kicked out or got dumped out of foster care at whatever age, you're gonna like process your emotions out loud a lot more once you become homeless. But anywho, she was like, I just find out every day as I find out. It's like getting a package in the mail. And I really like that quote. And people will say, oh, that's just psychosis talk, where they say things that don't make sense. What people consider psychosis talk always makes a lot of sense if you actually care and actually listen, and you're not prideful or some psychiatrist that's just trying to get a paycheck. They're always talking about trauma, things that happen to them, things they witness happen to somebody else, life. And I totally get that I just find out every day as I find out, because you really do find out every day as you find out. And it really is like opening up the mail. And like, I feel like, I even said this in my video where I talked about this a couple years ago or whatever. I was like, that could really be on a t-shirt. I just find out every day as I find out. Lastly, I'm not sure if I mentioned this in the part 3 or not, but when I was in NC and it was snowing and 15 degrees, there was this whole little convo I heard while standing in the bus station. This dude was talking to some other dude, and they were just talking about different things with the homeless issue and trying to figure things out. Because like I said, in NC, you go to the shelter, which was actually a weather shelter, so it was like an emergency shelter, and it was going to close soon. And it was also at a Catholic church. You go there at 10 p.m., and then you get woken up abruptly at 4 a.m. and dumped out on the side of the road downtown somewhere. Like, I remember this one girl, it was her her second day. And she admitted that she got lost and didn't know where she was at, and that she wanted to know where everybody went all day until it was time to go back to the shelter. And I was like, I didn't know that this is what they do either. And I had to like find out how to get to the bus station. Well, no, I think somebody helped me get down there, luckily, because I hadn't been in NC in years. And even when I was there, I don't remember ever walking around. Well, I did walk around downtown a lot, but not in that area, not in that direction either. And that was back when I was 12. So the point is, it goes like that. Go there at 10, go to sleep whenever in the world you finally fall asleep. Get up at 4 a.m., dumped off somewhere. These dudes were waiting to go to work. They didn't go to work till 8 or 9 a.m. And that's honestly a long wait. Not to mention you have to wait for the bus station to actually open too. And that opens before the library. So people go there and they stand for some hours, and then eventually they go stand at the library. And people call it roam time, at least in the West Coast homeless community. Roam time is a time where you're like running around, sitting around, trying to find something to do until the resource center's open. And I'm not gonna lie, I do feel like this gets people in like a trap, in a cycle. Because it's like you can't really do anything because you may have so much stuff that you have nowhere to put, and you're like sitting around waiting for this place to open. It's really hard to explain, but it just really keeps you in like a trapped mental cycle. But that's kind of relevant to the point of the video. The dude was talking about how some place, quote unquote, lets us stand out here, and they let them do some other things that I can't really remember, to be honest. And then the other dude was like, what do you mean let us? We need to come together and figure something out so we can get something together economically and get ourselves together as a people. Why do people have to let us do this? Why do we have to let people let us do things? We need to start doing things and helping ourselves instead of having people let us do this and let us do that. He wasn't wrong. If I could really remember the full conversation, it'll make more sense to people that aren't like stuck up or whatever. But I can't really remember that much of it.